We have no indication that they haven't been able to get in Kabul through the airport. We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through.
Joe Biden has another very bad address/press conference on Friday. Portland went nuts over the weekend, and black white supremacy. All this and more coming up on this episode of the Jobob Show. Thanks for tuning in. It starts right about now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Live from a dingy bunker completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is the Jobob Show. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Lots of interesting things happened after we got off the air on Friday, and then, of course, over the weekend that we want to bring to your attention. A lot of fun little tidbits of information. As you heard at the very beginning, the Biden administration had another big faux pas on Friday with the president's presser/address. Really just a not good way to start or to continue this debacle that is the Afghanistan situation. Also, Portland went nuts this weekend. Proud Boys faced off with the anti-fascists who are totally fascists. A lot of some confusing stuff coming out of Portland. Also, the California election has some twists and turns in there. Very fun. But even if you're not in California, you got to see and understand what the heck is going on here in the Golden State. So before we get into all of that, we got a lot of these fun sticker sales this weekend on capitalistpropaganda.us. Capitalist Propaganda, we've been pushing it for the last several weeks. If you haven't already, head over to Capitalist Propaganda, get the best gear to tell your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck. Help to spread capitalist propaganda. Only you can do that to stop the empire. A lot of cool designs just promoting capitalism, because apparently we have to do that nowadays. Capitalism is not just a thing that, you're welcome, love capitalism, not just a thing that we just automatically think is a good thing. Apparently we have to promote it again. And these are the best things that I've seen so far. These are the gas station stickers available at capitalistpropaganda.us. The Joe Biden, I did that, pointing at the gas station. Now, I'm not saying that you should go put these on your gas stations, but if you did, it'd be pretty funny. We did it, Joe. We increased gas prices by a ton. Now we're asking OPEC for oil, which is crazy because the Biden administration has done a lot in the way of shutting down pipeline access from get our own oil and make our own oil at home. Now we're asking OPEC for it. So that is what it is. But anyways, head on over to capitalistpropaganda.us. Get the gear that tells your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck by supporting capitalism, because apparently we have to now. To get into things today, Joe Biden did a press conference on Afghanistan on Friday. It aired right after we were off the air, which is a shame. It would have been fun to take some of it live and react. But at the same time, the entire media and his own Secretary of Defense, or his own Defense Department and his own Secretary of State Department pretty much said everything I would have said, so it doesn't really matter that we didn't take it live or comment on it live. We'll get to that in just a second. Breaking news-ish in the last 15 or so minutes. The Pfizer vaccine has gotten full FDA approval, which is going to be interesting to say the least, given that mandates are already a problem. They're just going to be a bigger problem. Now, I don't pretend to be a vaccine expert or a doctor of any kind. I did see this tweet that I thought was interesting from an attorney. How can the FDA approve this for anyone with 6 months of safety data and few, if any, well-done randomized control trials and no long-term data? So there's obviously the side of people that I sympathize with a lot that say the fastest vaccine approval the FDA has ever done has been 7 years. We're going to do this in less than one. So even if it has FDA approval, now there's a lot of argument on the other side, as long as we're being fair, to say that, yeah, it's already been given to a ton of people, and that's part of the vaccine approval process. I don't know. Just given that it's coming from the FDA, who also said that we should eat margarine over butter. Turns out margarine is the worst possible thing that you can put in your body. And I don't know. The FDA has been wrong a lot. That's not to say that people there aren't honest and trying to do what's best or what they think is in their best interest of the people. But to say that one of the vaccines has full FDA approval, to me is kind of okay. Whatever. You still shouldn't mandate things. Nothing should be mandated at this point. Maybe 10 years down the road, after we've seen very long-term effects of whatever is in whatever it is that they're giving people, maybe you have those same sort of vaccination cards that you would take to elementary school. But again, this is still a very different thing. It's a very evolving thing. New stuff is coming out all the time. I'm not pretending to understand all of it because obviously this is not my field. But to say that this is totally normal is just not accurate at all. And that's what your left-wing media and your left-wing people are saying a lot. So the Pfizer vaccine is fully approved by the FDA. You can expect mandates coming down from governments and companies probably, which is not a good thing in terms of freedom. If you haven't seen our video on vaccine mandates, we went into detail about the FDA numbers itself in response to the vaccine mandates. Vaccine mandates don't make any sense whatsoever. They just don't. For the COVID vaccine, the brand new COVID vaccine that's now recently approved by the FDA. Regardless, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to get into it right now because that I can literally go on a 30-minute rant about why it doesn't make any sense. But if you want to, go check out the vaccine mandate episode of Quality Control over on Daily Caller. If you're not familiar, Daily Caller, news organization founded by Tucker Carlson. I do a show over there that we do every week, but 2 weeks ago we did vaccine mandates. According to the CDC's own numbers, vaccine mandates just don't make any sense whatsoever. And it's not an anti-vax video. It's a anti-vaccine mandate video. So check it out over on Daily Caller. We'll leave that there. I really want to get into the Joe Biden press conference from last week, in which he said a lot of wrong things. And this is so here's the thing. When you talk about politics, especially at the presidential level, anytime you criticize the president or the federal government in any way, a lot of times it comes through a partisan lens, right? You think, oh, you're criticizing Joe Biden. No, you must be a MAGA hat person, or you're criticizing Joe Biden. You must be a right-wing extremist because nobody can criticize Joe Biden unless you're on the right wing of conservative media. This is not one of those situations. There's been a lot of situations where we've hit Joe Biden, and it's a difference of opinions, right? People are allowed to disagree, and they should be allowed to disagree. And if you crush dissenting opinions, that's no way to run a country. But this is not that. What Joe Biden said last week is not what we're talking about. What he said on Friday was just littered with a bunch of stuff that's just wrong. It's not opinion, right? It's not Joe Biden had, well, we should have Medicare for all. And those of us who understand how the government works says, no, well, we shouldn't have that. That's just a difference of opinions and arguments to be made on both sides. This stuff is just wrong. Joe Biden may have well said, the sky is purple because everybody, the entire media, and his own Department of Defense and Secretary of Department, after he gave his little spiel, were like, yeah, that's not right. And at what point in history have we been here where the president gets off of an address and the media says, a lot of that isn't true? And we have a bunch of clips to play from that press conference, as well as from Chris Wallace's show on Fox, where he had Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, talking about this. But I want to get into this first clip from Joe Biden talking about people getting to the airport in Kabul. This is Joe Biden from Friday's press conference / address.
We have no indication that they haven't been able to get in Kabul through the airport. We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through.
So that's just not accurate. Joe Biden was saying that the people are totally able to go through. There's no problems with checkpoints or anything like that. That's just not true. The U.S. Embassy sent an alert to Americans in Kabul that said this: because of the potential security threats outside the gates at the Kabul airport, we are advising U.S. citizens to avoid traveling to the airport unless you receive individual instructions from a U.S. government representative to do so. Which flies completely in the face of what Joe Biden said. He said, we have no problems with getting Americans to the airport. And the U.S. Embassy put out an alert to Americans in Kabul saying, don't come to the airport unless you have explicit instructions from a U.S. government representative to do so. Again, you have the President of the United States saying that it's totally fine. People can totally go. Yeah, just head on over to the airport. Just, pack your bags, take a nice little breezy stroll over to the airport. Should be totally fine. The embassy is saying, do not come due to potential security threats outside the gates. Come when we give you specific instructions. We'll tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. So the first out of the gate, Joe Biden is just wrong. Again, this is not a difference of opinions where we on the right of the political spectrum are in disagreement with people on the left of the political spectrum. No, this is just factually incorrect. This is saying the sky is purple. None of that is accurate. What the embassy said flies directly in the face of what we just heard from the president. In response to Joe Biden's address on Friday, a lot of the people from the administration were then making the rounds. Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State A. Blinken, it's funny, just A. Blinken. Anyways, was on Chris Wallace's show over the weekend, and dude, you'll see his face, but it looks like a guy who is now tasked with defending the completely indefensible, and Chris Wallace lets him have it. Now, keep in mind, I like to throw these caveats in there or these disclaimers in there, just because I feel like adding context to things gives it a little bit more oomph. Chris Wallace is not a right-wing extremist by any stretch of the imagination. He's your left-leaning liberal journalist who reports on Fox News. You don't see that in other places, but that's a whole conversation for another point. But again, Chris Wallace, not Sean Hannity. Very different way of looking at things. Chris Wallace is a very mostly fair journalist who definitely has a liberal bent. This is him interviewing Secretary of State Antony Blinken over the weekend.
In addition to the question of the security and the ease of Americans getting to the airport, the president on Friday said a few other things that were flat wrong, Mr. Secretary. Here he is on the threat from al-Qaeda.
What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point with al-Qaeda gone?
But a UN report this summer says that al-Qaeda is present in 15 of the 34 provinces of Afghanistan. And General Milley said this summer that if the Taliban fell, that he was, or rather took over Kabul, that he was going to have to upgrade the terror threat from al-Qaeda. What the president said just wasn't true.
Chris, step back for 1 second. First, as we all know, we went to Afghanistan 20 years ago with one mission and one purpose in mind. And that was to deal with the folks who attacked us on 9/11, to bring bin Laden to justice, which we did a decade ago, and to diminish the capacity of al-Qaeda to do the same thing again, to attack us from Afghanistan. And that, to the president's point, has been successful. We got bin Laden a decade ago.
But Mr. Secretary, the president
Please.
said al-Qaeda is gone. Simple question: is al-Qaeda gone from Afghanistan?
Al-Qaeda's capacity to do what it did on 9/11, to attack us, to attack our partners or allies from Afghanistan, is vastly, vastly diminished.
Is it gone?
Are there Al Qaeda members and remnants in Afghanistan? Yes, but what the president was referring to was its capacity to do what it did on 9/11, and that capacity has been very successfully diminished.
So the Secretary of State there is telling Chris Wallace, trying to spin. Look, Blinken is a good spin artist, right? If you're not familiar with this is what politicians do. You get caught in something and you try to spin it the other way, but just look at the look on this guy's face. Like, I gotta spin this? Joe Biden came out to the American people on Friday and said, Al-Qaeda is gone, which is just not true. According to his own Joint Chiefs of Staff, head of Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, who we all have our own thoughts on General Milley and other things, but General Milley earlier in the summer was like, Al-Qaeda's not gone. They're very much all over the place in Afghanistan. And Joe Biden here comes out and says, Al-Qaeda is gone. Now, Blinken, as you just heard, then tries to say, no. That's not what he meant. The threat of Al-Qaeda to attack American soil is greatly diminished. Yeah, but that's not what he said. That's not what Joe Biden said. He said they're gone. If he wanted to say the threat of Al-Qaeda is taken care of, then, we can have some reasonable debate of whether or not you think that's true or will be true or is totally not true. But that's not what he said. Joe Biden said Al-Qaeda is gone, to which Anthony Blinken then had to try and spin that the best he could. And the guy's good at spin. But again, as you can see, the look on his face is like, dude, I gotta try and spin this? Are you kidding me? Why don't you just speak more accurately, dude? Because like we said, Joe Biden came out on Friday, gave an entire address in which he made a lot of statements that were just factually incorrect. And the media and his own people in his own administration said, that's not true at all. And people were talking about it all over the weekend. Here's the question. And here's the question that Chris Wallace is going to ask in the next clip, this is really interesting. If you have an extra 4 minutes, stick around and watch this clip. The clip's not that long, but we'll get to that. But you need to watch this clip. Also, if you have any comments, throw them in the comment section. We get all the comments straight to the screen and can pull them up and pull them down. And if you have something interesting to say or have a point of view that I'm missing because I'm not perfect in this, send me a comment. If I say something inaccurate or you think is inaccurate, let me know. I do not shy away from dissenting opinions. But comment section is wide open wherever you're watching this, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of that stuff. So anyways, Chris Wallace then asked the question that we're all asking, is the president just lying or does he not know? And I don't know which one is worse. I don't know if it's worse if he's lying about it or worse if he just doesn't know. This is a next clip from Chris Wallace on his weekend show with Secretary of State Anthony Blinken.
Here's another statement that the president made that was flat wrong. Take a look.
I have seen no question of our credibility from our allies around the world. I've got the exact opposite thing is we're acting with dispatch. We're acting, committing to what we said we would do.
But Armin Laschet, the likely successor to German Chancellor Merkel, said this is the biggest debacle that NATO has seen since its foundation. And here is the chairman of the British Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee.
To see their commander-in-chief call into question the courage of men I fought with, to claim that they ran, it's shameful. Those who have never fought for the colours they fly should be careful about criticizing those who have.
Mr. Secretary, does the president not know what's going on?
This is an incredibly emotional time for many of us, and including allies and partners who've been shoulder to shoulder with us in Afghanistan for 20 years.
Holy cow. Okay, dude. This is the Secretary of State. Chris Wallace, respected news journalist, just asked, does the president know what's going on? If you're the Secretary of State, the answer is yes. You say yes. That's just what you say. The fact that he didn't say yes, I'm going to play this clip one more time, not the whole thing, but that question from Chris Wallace, where he says, does the president know what's going on? The answer is yes. Unless there's something going on that we don't know about that Secretary Blinken is desperately trying to not convey to the American people. Listen to that one more time. Again, keeping in mind, dude, the answer here is yes. When Chris Wallace asked this question, the answer is yes.
Secretary, does the president not know what's going on?
This is an incredibly emotional time for many of us, and including allies and partners who've been shoulder to shoulder with us in Afghanistan for 20 years.
You shouldn't have to spin this question. Chris Wallace asked, does the president know what's going on? He didn't ask, is the president sad? Because that's the question Anthony Blinken answered. Does the president know what's going on? He said, this is an emotional time for all of us. Yeah, dude, we agree. It is a crazy situation that makes a lot of us sad for what's going on in Kabul and what's going on in Afghanistan. But that wasn't the question. The question was, does he know what's going on? Maybe Anthony Blinken knows something that we don't, and something is coming in the near future that may put the president's mental ability into question, and he doesn't want to have this clip out there for the rest of his life. The president is fully aware of what's going on, and then 3 days later, something happens. I don't know. The president decides that maybe his brain doesn't work enough or to be fit for the Oval Office. I don't know. I have no idea. But the fact that when Chris Wallace asked, does the president know what's going on, Anthony Blinken didn't just say, yes, he absolutely does, is super weird. Not to mention the fact that we didn't even touch this yet. The question, the clip before that was Joe Biden saying, I haven't seen anybody question our credibility in the United States. Yeah, dude, a lot of people have been doing that. The likely German successor to Angela Merkel was like, yeah, we question a lot. There was a really impassioned speech. So we pulled the full clip of that British MP talking, and we might play it down the road. It was really, really, I don't want to say great. Is truth-telling. Didn't make us look good at all, but it was a good dive into understanding how other people are viewing the United States right now. Maybe we'll get into that whole thing down the road, but there's just been so much coming that it's tough to get stuff on in the time that we have. But basically, Joe Biden said, I haven't seen anybody question our credibility, aside the fact that a bunch of people have. So, again, the question is he lying about it, or does he not know? Both of them are bad. I think this side is worse if he just has no idea. Because there's been a lot of stuff that's been called into question. Now, the credibility thing is interesting to me because I like Americans looking out for America. I understand people might not agree. We need to be the world police. We need to go promote sovereignty and democracy all over the world. Look, great, fine. I'd be more happy if democracy was in place in a lot of different places. However, call me crazy. I think the United States government should be solely and entirely responsible for looking after the citizens of the United States. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that should be job number one. After that's all taken care of, yeah, sure, whatever. We can go build empire. I don't know. Whatever you want to say. But I think that the primary job of the United States government is to look after Americans. With that being said, we don't really look after our wallets very well. The United States government does not do a great job at looking after the financial future of the United States. We are the world police, if you don't know. And to go into this whole other thing, you see a lot of your AOCs, your Bernies, your Elizabeth Warrens looking at places like Sweden or the Nordic countries saying, well, look at them. They're doing a modern version of socialism. Yeah, well, they don't have to spend a bunch of their money to protect themselves because we do it for them. Now, no, we don't protect the border of Sweden. But outside threats are almost entirely mitigated because of our NATO agreements with a lot of these first world countries around the world. Because we, the United States, and the United States taxpayer by default are the world police, these countries don't have to use their budget to do that. They can do whatever they want with their money. Because really the only thing they have to defend is their streets, keep criminals off of their own streets, and then defend their border with whatever ease they want to. They don't have to be meddling in other people's business because they see it as an outside threat to their country, because we do that for them. Now, one of the things that people really liked about President Trump is he was like, no, dude, you got to pay for this. Like, we're taking the brunt of all of the responsibility to protect the entire first world population from these outside threats. You guys aren't doing anything for it. What I'm getting at here is maybe, and again, this goes without saying, this is a bad thing. This is a bad look for the United States. But maybe some of those first world countries that have the financial ability and the capability to participate in stopping outside threats, maybe will pull their own weight. Again, I don't like the circumstances. I don't like the fact that they don't trust us as a reason for doing that. But maybe 5-10 years down the road, we see your United Kingdoms, we see your Nordic countries, we see your greater Europe countries starting to pull their own weight in NATO because, well, I don't want to get into why, because I don't like the reason why. The reason why would be because they don't trust us to do it for them. Now again, it's kind of like a group project here, right? If you're the one doing all the work, which the United States has been for the last several decades, other people are going to slack off. But if they don't trust you to do the work, yeah, it doesn't look good for you to not be trusted. But at the same time, maybe the people in the group project will start pulling their own weight. I don't know. That's just my thought. Maybe it's not a popular opinion. Again, I'll reiterate, I don't like the circumstances in which that would happen. But is it such a bad thing entirely to have other countries around the world pulling their own weight? Donald Trump was hitting it hard. That's what he was doing. Saying, you need to pay your fair share, says the Bernies of the world. Because people weren't. They were just footing us with the bill and the responsibility of protecting the world. Now, if they don't trust us to do that anymore, again, hate the premise, maybe the outcome might be good. Joe Biden also had this video that he posted on Facebook yesterday and Twitter that I want to watch about refugees coming into the United States. Take a look at this.
As effort unfolds, I want to be clear about three things. One, planes taking off from Kabul are not flying directly to the United States. They're landing at U.S. military bases and transit centers around the world. Number two, at these sites where they're landing, we are conducting thorough scrutiny, security screening for everyone who is not a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. Anyone arriving in the United States will have undergone a background check. Number three, once screened and cleared, we will welcome these Afghans who helped us in the war effort over the last 20 years to their new home in the United States of America, because that's who we are. That's what America is.
So here's Joe Biden talking about bringing refugees into the United States. This is interesting. I probably should have given some context to this video, but Joe Biden is kind of outlining the steps in which refugees would be accepted into the United States. He's basically saying that we're not flying them directly from Kabul to the United States. We're flying them to other places where we have military presence, and then they're being thoroughly vetted, having background checks, all of that stuff, and then coming to the United States. The reason I think the Biden administration felt this necessary to put out is, one, you got to appease the left wing of your party, right? He's got to appease your AOCs, your Ilhan Omars, your Bernie Sanderses, everybody who's the big open borders, let everybody in type. He had to appease all of those people. Having said that, Joe Biden also needs to make sure that the concern of United States citizens, to put it lightly, is being met. I'm not an anti-refugee, anti-immigrant, not any of those things. But if we saw anything from Europe when the Syrian refugee crisis was taking place, 2015, 2016, it did not go well. We did an episode with the Daily Caller, I think they aired yesterday, it might even be airing today, about some statistics revolving around refugees coming into first world countries. And the reality of the situation is that crime is an uptick. Look, Joe Biden and the Democrats know that crime is a huge talking point in these upcoming 2022 elections and probably the 2024 elections. I think the last thing that he wants to do is have a repeat of the refugee crisis in Germany, in which violent crime was on the decline. And then this particular place, Lower Saxony in Germany, did a big study where they had a huge influx of Middle East refugees, and all of a sudden their crime upticked by like 20%, violent crime. So Joe Biden is sitting here having to try and appease both sides to say that, oh, yeah, of course, you're hyper leftist. Oh, yeah, we must accept refugees. But also, just so you know, we're screening them hard. Now, why isn't he doing this on the southern border? There's a lot of things we don't know. But that's just the case currently. Again, Joe Biden is trying to play both sides of the fence. I wanted to bring up this article. It's one of the problems with this show is all of the information always coming in, and we got to get on and do it live at some point. So there's always so much that we don't get to that I would like to get to that we just don't have time for because we have to get on the actual show. And I try to save it for tomorrow, but there's more stuff that comes out. This is from the Daily Caller. Make that a little bit bigger. Exclusive. Small percentage of Afghan refugees flagged through security screenings for possible ties to terrorism. This is Shelby Talcott reporting from the Daily Caller, saying that a small percentage of Afghan refugees are being flagged through biometric and background checks for possible ties to terrorism. One Pentagon official and a second person familiar with the process of the screenings told the Daily Caller. The Pentagon officials said that the number of Afghan refugees flagged for questionable connections, such as connections to attacks against U.S. coalition forces, is 0.5% or more. 0.5% might not seem like a whole lot. Understandable. But Shelby goes on, President Joe Biden estimated in an interview published August 19th that between 50,000 and 65,000 Afghans must be evacuated, meaning that roughly 250 to 325 of these could be flagged if the trend continues. So this is a probable reason, or a part of the reasoning behind why Joe Biden has to come out with videos like that refugee video and say, oh, we're flagging people outside of the United States before they come into the United States because of stuff like this. Afghan refugees could be tied to anti-American terrorism threats. It's the reality of the situation. Refugees are very difficult. The refugee process is very difficult. Not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but it's very complex and very difficult. So saying we're completely anti-refugee, not good. Saying we're totally refugee, everybody refugee can come, also not good. All of this is getting at is this is a very difficult and complex situation that is going to be months in the making. And we probably won't see the effects of it until after it's all said and done. But the refugee situation that we're in right now is very complex. Don't let your media type spin you into saying, well, if you're anti-refugee, you must be racist. Or no refugees whatsoever, absolutely not. Because both of those are not true. It's somewhere in the middle. They had a big problem in Germany when they took in a lot of refugees from the Syrian crisis and also in the Middle East in general, and some from African nations. Big uptick in violent crime. Not saying there's a lot of reasons why that could happen. All I'm saying is those are the stats, and Joe Biden doesn't want to add to the violent crime problem that his party already has heading in to the 2022 midterms. Okay. Speaking of Afghanistan, and this is not I don't want to make light of this situation, but You ever heard the term Chirac? Chicago, south side of Chicago. Some people call it Chirac because it's pretty dangerous there. Well, Portland is getting to be the same way, drawing parallels with some of the dangerous parts of the world. Portland went nuts over the weekend. There was an hours-long rolling street battle between the Proud Boys and The Guardian calls them anti-fascists, which is hilarious because no group that I've ever seen is more fascist than the modern-day anti-fascists. But whatever. There was a rolling street battle throughout Portland in which no police responded whatsoever. Now, I can't really blame the Portland police. I don't know if you're familiar with all the stuff that's been happening in Portland. They celebrated not one, but 200 consecutive nights in a row of rioting. 2 times. There was 100 consecutive nights in a row of rioting, and then the rioting kind of phased off a little bit. And then they had another 100 nights in a row of consecutive rioting in Portland, and it's not gotten any better. So I don't really blame the police. If they're just like, if you want to beat the crap out of each other, go ahead and beat the crap out of each other. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can understand why the Portland Police Department, given all of the things that they've been through in the last year, would say that sort of thing. But the Proud Boys faced off with the anti-fascists in a running street battle. The Proud Boys were firing airsoft guns at them. The Antifa people had bats and bike chains and all that sort of stuff. No police presence whatsoever. It was just fight after fight after fight after fight all throughout the streets of Portland. People having a nice Sunday evening, enjoying their meal outside on a beautiful day in Portland. Oh, look, there's a roving street battle going on in Portland. How nice. Entertainment for the evening. But then after about an hour of that, one of the Proud Boys pulls out what looked like and sounded like an actual gun. We won't play it because the images are a little bit disturbing. In which the Antifa people pulled out their guns and started firing back. So now you have an open firefight in the streets of downtown Portland, because that's the way that our country is devolving. That's just what's happening right now here in the United States of America. The police chief issued a statement saying, encouraging people to stay apart if they don't agree. Having said that, the Proud Boys, this is kind of funny. I don't necessarily align myself with a lot of their thoughts. They're a little bit out there. For me, but they called this the Peace and Love Rally, which was just funny. Knowing that Antifa was going to show up, they knew that, and knowing that they'd be in a battle royale on the streets of Portland. The police chief said, please stay apart going forward. But the Proud Boys did issue an event for another Peace and Love Rally that Antifa will no doubtedly show up to there also. Just what's going on in Portland. Uptick in crime across the country. Portland is no different. And we just see rolling street battles going on in the streets of the United States of America because all of these policies of defund the police, not backing law enforcement, this is exactly what you get. Wish I were surprised. Wish I were shocked. But I am not. One thing I am shocked about, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the California election, there's a guy named Larry Elder. I've known Larry for years. He's a great dude, very funny. Larry's done one of the. Actually, on Friday, I was talking about I might share one of my funny Larry stories. We might get Larry on here in a couple, in a little bit. Obviously, running for governor. Got some big things in the works. Maybe Larry will come on. Maybe I'll tell that Larry story then. But Larry Elder. Hilariously, I'm sorry. I hate to be leading people on like this. I will tell this story eventually, but Larry Elder did one of the funniest things I've ever seen a quote-unquote politician or a media person do in my entire life. And I've told him many times about this story and reminded him about it because, again, it was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Larry Elder did. Larry's facing some criticism from allegations made against him with his ex-fiance or something, where a gun was involved. I'll say this. First things first, there's no way of knowing what happened. Unless there's a video camera, I'm not going to know what's happened. You're not going to know what's happened. It's his word against her word. Larry Elder obviously denies all of the allegations. She went out in an interview and undermined pretty much everything she said. And she said stuff like, oh, well, he's too old to be the governor. Okay, well, hold on. That's not your cause. Your cause is that he supposedly, according to you, pulled a gun on you. Again, we have no way of knowing what happened. If it happened, this is a terrible situation. But there's no way of knowing. There's no way of anybody knowing unless there's video proof of it or photographic proof of it, which I don't think there is. But if that's the claim that she's making, and then she goes on and say, well, he's too old to be the governor. Sounds like you got a bone to pick. Pretty much undermines your allegations of what you're making. Besides that, this was a hilarious, downright hilarious. Well, sorry, it would be more hilarious if it weren't so horrifying. It is horrifarious what this is. This is a headline from the LA Times over the weekend. This is a real headline, which I have to say because we're going to read it, and you're like, no, that is not a real headline. But it is. Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. You've been warned. I wish I was more upset about this. I'm mad. This is like crazy. But also, like, what? Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy? Here, hold on. How about, can I be the brown face of Asian supremacy or the brown face of whatever? Because when you throw words around like this, nothing makes any, like, this doesn't make any, this is stupid. At this point, it's just stupid. Like, you can say you disagree with Larry Elder, but the black face of white supremacy? Come on. Because everybody knows that straight black men are the white men of black people. It's just I don't know, man. Like, it's ridiculous. It's horrifying that we've come to this as a society, and a formerly respected newspaper like the LA freaking Times put out a headline like this. It's horrifying, but at the same time, God dang it, it's hilarious. It really is. It is beyond, like, you can't even parody this. I had a friend share some commentary on this, in which someone was saying, yes, straight black men are the white men of black people. And they were talking about that in those types of terms. And I messaged him and said, hey, this is this is parody, right? And he's like, no, because the problem is you can't tell. We've made parody impossible because of stuff like this. Nonsense and total garbage like this. Larry Elder being the black face of white supremacy. Let's take a look at that a little bit bigger. Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. You've been warned. Thank you, LA Times. Thank you so much for warning me about the black face of white supremacy. We had a little bit more on the election stuff in California, but we're not going to be able to get to it because of our time constraint. This is a new kind of little feature we want to try out. This is the straw man argument of the day. Maybe we'll throw some jaunty music to it. The straw man argument of the day. Greg Abbott has COVID. Last week, Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, announced that he's tested positive for the coronavirus. He's fully vaccinated, is against mandates across the state, has been fighting mandates for harder than probably DeSantis, fighting mandates in the great state of Texas. And he ended up with COVID. Now, your lefty media and your Democrat types are saying, look, see, that's ironic. He was against mandates and he got COVID. But here's the thing. It wasn't ironic at all. That's not even close to what irony means, because he's fully aware of the risks and made a risk assessment for his own actions. So it's not ironic. Now, it did prove to be ironic because he is now dead. Sorry, wait, no, he's totally fine and testing negative for coronavirus. So get out of here with your nonsense of, oh, look, Greg Abbott got COVID and he's against mandates, therefore we should have mandates. That's not even a relevant argument. Because of course Greg Abbott understands that he might get it. And he did. And he's fully vaccinated and he's totally fine. So do with that what you will. He's in his 60s. He's in a pretty high risk category and ended up being totally fine. If anything, him getting COVID and being completely fine after it, after like a week of having it, would be a better argument for his side. Yeah, mandate. Screw the mandates. You're fine. I'm fine. He's fine. I being him in this scenario. So yeah, the whole idea that Greg Abbott got COVID and he's against mandates, therefore should have mandates. Ha ha! Look at him. Ha 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 ha. It's just very stupid. Before we wrap up today, here's your daily reminder that Donald Trump is still not on Twitter, but the Taliban is. I think I'm going to say that every day at the end of the show. We're just a friendly reminder to everybody that Donald Trump, president of the United States, one of the most influential people in the country, is not allowed to have a Twitter, but the Taliban is, because that's the way that Twitter works. Yeah. Going to wrap up the show every single day with that. Just reminding everybody the Taliban has a Twitter account and a bunch of other reprehensible individuals around the world have Twitter accounts. And the former president of the United States does not. So with that, we will say farewell for today. We'll be back tomorrow with all new episode of anything that happens. Maybe we'll get to that British MP making some really strong and correct and accurate statements about the United States and our Afghanistan approach. But I'm sure a lot of other things will happen up until then. If you didn't get a chance, check out our quality control episode on Daily Caller this week. We talked about the Afghanistan debacle as well as the political ramifications for Joe Biden and Democrats across the country. That's over on Daily Caller. Also this Wednesday, if you're a paid subscriber to Daily Caller, I'll be on their Dispatch show Wednesday talking about the news of the day and keeping everybody up to date. I think that is paywall, but we've got some other interesting stuff coming out with the Daily Caller soon. So head over to the Daily Caller, check out my show Quality Control. If you're a member, check out the Dispatch on Wednesday. We'll be on there. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. bright and early to talk about anything that happens over the rest of today, which is bound to be interesting. So that's our show. Thanks so much for watching. God bless America.